recently participated in the latest Ludum Dare event, which took place just under a week ago. My submission was called Bring Your Own Bullets, wherein the player has to play a small minigame to fire bullets, which they collect from the surrounding arena. Now let's get the self-promotion out of the way. If you haven't played this game already, then I highly recommend you do so. It's legitimately one of the better games I've created in my opinion. So why am I recording this video? Well, I decided that I'd document some of my thought process during the planning and development of Bring Your Own Bullets. So at the start of the jam, I wrote out maybe 7 or 8 semi-developed ideas for what my submission could be. The idea that I chose was a game wherein you collect bullets around the arena, and each bullet you collect makes you weaker in some way. I initially thought I'd make the player deal less damage for every bullet they collect, though at some point I reasoned that the player should want to feel as powerful as reasonably possible, so I decided I'd find a different way of making something worse as per the theme. Next, I tried out making the player have less health. However, I quickly realised that each match was taking forever to complete, and rather than making the enemies deal more damage, which would effectively nullify the core gameplay hook in the first place, I decided to make the player die in a single hit, and find a different way for them to get weaker with the more bullets they collect. Finally, I decided I'd make the player slower. I didn't really expect to keep this one since I realised the problem before I even started. The player would eventually get so slow that they physically cannot dodge the enemy projectiles, and they would lose immediately after getting to a certain threshold. So I decided that the player would now only be slowed down based on the number of bullets they currently hold, rather than the total number of bullets they collected. This helped a lot and created something bordering on interesting gameplay. Somehow, and I wish I had a better explanation for this, I came up with the idea of a quick reflex-based minigame to make it a little bit more interesting for the player. I don't know exactly how it popped into my head, but I think I made some connection from the idea of a physical pool of bullets possessed by the player and a revolver being difficult to quickly reload. In the end, I was pretty happy with this system, so I kept it. I promised myself that I wouldn't change the mechanics anymore after that, since I was approaching the upper boundary of how much I can program in a day, and still remember how to breathe and blink. I spent the rest of the day coming up with ideas to juice up my game, or making it more satisfying and pleasant to play. I added some very light screen shake, some particle effects, and a nice pulsating background for good measure. Also, several things in that game work off of the same hue value. I did something similar in another project of mine called Super Displacement, where the enemy's red hue was mixed with the current colour of the background grid. It's nothing too complicated, but it did help everything feel a bit more unified than you'd expect. As an aside, the sound effects were actually the easiest part of the whole experience. Godot 3.0 uses a new bus-based audio system, and once I figured out how to make raw wave files loop since I couldn't import them as proper samples, it was a breeze to use and really satisfying. Plus it comes with some nice stock effects like delay, reverb, etc. It's a pretty good system. Also, I named the soundtrack for that game Doesn't This Bell Pepper Taste Morose, which is actually one of my favourite titles just because it's such a silly premise for a vegetable to taste like a mood, but that's, I guess, just my weird sense of humour. I'll stop now before I get into the etymology of some of the song names from Super Displacement soundtrack. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for something a bit less Ludum Dare flavoured. I told you I wouldn't make another Ludum Dare video, and, well, I guess I lied because here I am making another Ludum Dare video, and in fact I have been for the past 3.5 minutes or so.